Monaco, the most famous street circuit in Formula One. The tightest track on the calendar with zero room for mistakes. And honestly, probably the hardest place to set a clean lap, especially in the Assetto Corsa, due to how bumpy it is and how stiff the car is. I spent a lot of time in the simulator, and I still don't believe I can be quick enough. Oh well. Anyway, on to FP1 in real life. For reference, in real life, Lewis Hamilton topped FP1 with a 1 minute 12.169. No, I'm not expecting to beat that, but I want to see how close I can actually get. Either way, FP1 times aren't really representative, so I set the grid to green, but slightly higher as the conditions were pretty great during the weekend, but I hope this time I didn't set it too high. The grip was still good during the weekend, but still, the drivers were already struggling with some corners, especially in the Nouvelle Chicane, where drivers like Carlos Sainz and Hamilton had moments there, but that's Monaco. Also at Saint-Devote, some drivers were having trouble there during practice. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc came into this weekend with one goal: win his home race. Monaco had been cursed for him in the past, especially in 2021, when he came so close. But that crash was costly. So this time, the mission was simple: just win. Of course, Max wasn't leaving anything on the table as he kissed a few barriers during practice. The naughty boy. We also had some fun liveries that weekend, like McLaren. I think it was just McLaren, come to think of it. They brought a new special Monaco look inspired by the old Ayrton Senna era. So with the Brazilian colors, with the old McLaren livery kind of like silhouette. Very nice. Anyway, back to my session. As I said, I wasn't feeling confident, but I just got to take some time. And with the AI enabled this session, let's see how I do. Now, this being Monaco, I had to take it easy. Sure, I could use the extra free practice sessions, but my goal is to do this with one practice and one qualifying. But man, I almost lost the car a few times, but luckily I made the suspension super soft and nimble to help me from surprises. The AI during the session was mainly a distraction, I'm not gonna lie, as I tried overtaking one and then, as I said, this doesn't count as the AI cannot race in this game, and also this doesn't count, and same for this one, since I had to unstuck them so they would not distract me from my running. I guess long story short, AI collisions do not count. But anyway, my quickest lap in FP1 was a 1 minute 12.277 in lap 21, which was my final lap, and that would place me in P3. So, wow. Okay. So on to qualifying then. But first, let's talk about the race. Now, the race itself, it's Monaco. Let's be honest, it's a parade. But there were still some key moments, and this year it wasn't stupidly boring at the beginning. Early in the race, Sainz had contact with Oscar Piastri, which gave him a puncture and basically taking him out of the fight. But we had a big crash behind involving Sergio Perez and Kevin Magnussen, which brought out a red flag. Either it was Magnussen at fault or Perez, but both Hasses were out. Thankfully, everyone was okay. But because of that red flag, Sainz actually got another chance and restarted from third. There was also a strange moment when Esteban Ocon tried a very ambitious move on his teammate. I don't understand that one. It did not go very well. But aside from that, overtaking at the front was basically impossible. The only real passes happened towards the back of the grid. One of them came from Valtteri Bottas, and Lance Stroll, after a puncture, managed a few overtakes as well. But at the front, everything stayed basically the same. And finally, Charles Leclerc won the Monaco Grand Prix. Finally, a home win. Better late than never. For once, there was a weekend where Ferrari didn't mess things up. Kind of a rare moment these days. But speaking of which, this reminds me of the race in Melbourne last weekend. Something I noticed while watching the onboard radios during the sessions. Different teams give their drivers very different levels of information. Teams like Mercedes and Red Bull Racing and even McLaren When I listen to their onboard, it seems like the engineer is constantly updating their drivers on many things. Where they're gaining in the sectors, where they're losing time, if there's warning, stay on track, or, the drivers coming around, and also where some competitors seem to be faster, whether in the corner, in the straights. Meanwhile, sometimes Ferrari's radio messages feel a bit minimal. Drivers need that information. It's not just drive fast and good luck. Like, strategy matters too. Although Charles had better communication with his guy in the chair, Hamilton, on the other hand, now I know the guy is new, so we'll give him some time. Let's be patient. And Hamilton also seems overall happier, but he still had to coach the guy on what to tell him, which is interesting. At the end of the day, with time, let's hope that the relationship improves and the guy knows exactly what to tell Hamilton, because, for me, it's kind of like a no-brainer. I don't know what type of homework these guys have done. You got to tell exactly where the driver is quick and where he's not quick, so he can actually, let's say, push in this area, or you tell a driver you're being way too slow, or you're punishing the tires way too much. But again, give the guy some time. We will see later on. And about Melbourne as well, during that race, the VSC came out, and to me and to many others, this is pretty textbook at this point, and every team must know this and always take their chances, such as pitting during a safety car or a VSC, especially when it's close to the pit window, and that was the case basically in Australia, so interesting. There's also the case of matching a rival's pit stop to defend, especially when their pace could become a danger, and that was another chance. Not only the VSC, but also pitting with the Mercedes, so you stay close to them. You don't want them to run away. When you stay close to them, you can always put pressure and even defend if you're ahead. Therefore, you would slow them down. There's also things such as overcuts versus undercuts, which, in my opinion, should only come once teams know the tires well enough and also their rivals. In the case that Mercedes is pretty famous for, double stacking. But that can be tricky. So I would say only do it when the driver behind is around like 5 seconds away, and 3 seconds would be an absolute minimum. But still, 3 seconds is a huge risk, because those decisions at the end of the day can decide races. And Ferrari not making that decision when their pace wasn't blisteringly quick was easily a lost opportunity. But oh well, that is behind us now. The next race is in China. So after all this talk, back to my session to qualifying. And before we go into qualifying, if you watched this video up until now, thank you so much. You're the best. Please remember, if you haven't already, to like, subscribe if you want to see some more, and support this channel. And yeah, thank you very much for that. Let's go to qualifying. So in qualifying, I decided to set the grip level to about slow, and that should be quick enough as the grip improved a little bit. So as I go out for my out lap, I lose control of the car a little bit. Hopefully this doesn't mean that I would crash, but I continuously lost the car until I spun out at turn 8. So that was a close one, as I clipped the front wing a little bit, but that's an easy fix. The car is not completely done. Yeah, that was unlucky. I still finished a lap, just to put a lap on the board at 1 minute 40. It's not very good. I had enough fuel to continue for another lap, as I knew that this maybe would happen as I continued to lose control of the car. And at the end of this lap, it wasn't very good. I put in the 1 minute 14.046, enough to basically put me in P, non-existent. Yeah, this is not a good lap. I went straight out for another lap because, obviously it's not good. So a little bit less fuel this time, and just to see what I can do after turn 1, or a pretty good turn. And the 2 hairpins, the lowest hairpin, I managed to keep the car together. Those turns are pretty easy. Here I almost lost the car. It was always getting very light in the rear in turn 8. It's turn 12. But yeah, at the end of this lap, I did a 1:11.597. So not exactly a perfect lap, but enough to put me in P6. I was still very satisfied with that. So yeah, with that, I decided to put myself in the pits. I knew I was basically good for Q1, so on to Q2. In Q2, setting up my lap, my next lap. After that, turn 1, not too bad. And doing this very sequence of corners in the swimming pool section. Honestly, in practice, I almost lost the car so many times here. But luckily, in qualifying, I just keep myself getting comfortable. And at the end of this lap, I put in a 1:11.106. Pretty decent lap. And that would basically match Tsunoda's lap time of P8. Let's just say I'm in P9 in this. So, not too bad. I basically made it through Q2 easy peasy. So, yeah, on my way back into the pits. I still decided to just go for another lap because I was like, why not? Maybe I can actually go even faster. Just, also getting myself comfortable with the car. At the end of this lap, almost losing the car, hitting the side, the wall basically. I put in a 1:11.2. That was not quick at all. Yeah, just pulled in the pits. I was like, you know what? That's it. That's Q2 done. I had time. But yeah, with this, I'm in a decent P9. It's okay. So that puts me into Q3. And I honestly was surprised that I actually make it into Q3. I was not expecting that. I'm not going to lie. I was expecting myself to finish in the wall, but surprisingly, I didn't. So that's actually pretty interesting. So on to the setup for this lap. It was honestly a terrible lap. I just decided to pit. There's no use in doing another out lap and whatnot. So I or in up, I mean. So I decided to pit. It was a pretty terrible lap. The delta, unfortunately, is broken on top of the screen, so it's on the steering wheel that you'll have to rely on this. I almost lost it again at this lap for a 1:12.292. Not good at all. So I just knew I needed to go again for one quick Hail Mary type of lap. Just put it all out there. So I will leave you guys straight up to the fastest lap. Enjoy the replay of my fastest lap, and I'll see you guys in a minute. I hope you enjoyed this lap because at the end I managed to put in a time of 1:10.901, which would put me in P9. Not too bad. I was pretty happy with this lap, but that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next race. Goodbye.